Now our BIMOTA project should be ready for buffing out. We've left it sitting up by the heating vent for a couple of days. The longer you let it sit there, in theory anyway, the harder the paint will be and the easier it'll be to buff it out. Now it is really to my advantage to have the paint dry even a couple days extra. Where you run into a problem always with paint is when you go to rush it, you try to buff it out while it's still soft, and it doesn't take a shine the way it should. Now, I really did take my time on this, and I know most people don't realize it looks like this is just a little touch-up job. This is anything but. This was a lot of work. And we want to be careful now not to scratch it. And the first test is, the first thing is to make sure the paint is fully cured hard. We had it sitting outside for a day and then down in a cellar here for a few days. And it was sitting right up by, actually it's to your advantage too to have it right up by a heating vent where it's nice and warm. So the first step on this is 2000 grit, Rhino wet. Now, here's the thing you got to keep in mind with any of these repairs. There's almost no way that I know of anyway, to totally get rid of the line where one part ends and the other one begins, that paint line. But you can minimize it. Now, our whole goal here is just to minimize it. We've moved the tape several times, and at this point, well, we'd like to minimize where those little steps are, and try to get as much of this. Actually, because we've done so much, I don't know, well, we'll show it here. We've done so much carbon reinforcement on this. This whole thing has been reinforced with double layers of carbon. That should be stack the deck in favor of that this is not going to crack again, hopefully. But anyway, it'll take a few minutes. There's no point letting the camera run here infinitely to get this all sanded smooth, get it all dulled out, and we'll get some compound and see how much of that line we can make disappear. And we have really minimized the amount. In this part, you really don't see this, but you do see the back edge, so I spent a little extra time trying to get, and that's all Bondo in there. There's all carbon fiber back here in Bondo, so well, we just hope for the best anytime Bondo is involved. Now it'll be a question of getting a little rubbing compound on that and see how that's going to all work, and then we'll just run the buffer over the whole part. Now I always would start with a medium cut. This is a medium cut compound. It comes in, actually it comes in 3 grades. This is the middle grade, 80-21. Now one of the things not to do is put too much of that compound on the pad. Just need enough to do the job. And now this is a part of it that's going to take some time. This is not going to take 5 minutes. And we're just going to basically baby this part. The part of this, like with any compounding, is it just takes time. I just want to get a look at how the joint. Certainly acceptable. I think Vlad will be happy with that. Vlad's never happy. Come on. Let's see how this. We're about halfway there, I'd say. But it's the joint that I'm looking for, and you can just barely, oh my God, just barely see that. Now we're going to just finalize this with the real ultra fine compound. Let me slow this down. And once that is done, clean microfiber, wipe it all down, and that part will be done. All right, that's the first of our 3 parts now, and I think that's good. That's really going to be fine. And where the Bondo is, that's, you know, for all purposes you can't even tell. And the main thing is this is all double and triple reinforced now with carbon, which hopefully, unless Vlad puts this in a ditch or something, well, let's hope he has a little better luck putting these parts back on the bike. Okay, the next one is, and this part only has this one touch-up, so it's basically going to be the same routine, 2000 grit paper, and then we're going to buff it. This one only has the one repair on it right here. Now, one of the things Vlad wanted, he wanted me to try to do, and it, well, I guess I'm able to do it here. I backmasked this little rubber edge. I know when he glued that on, that was an issue he had. So what I'm going to do, this is probably one I'm going to have to do most of by hand. Just the way it is, I want to get up against the rubber pieces if I can. Again, the alternative to doing this, you have to make a decision early on. If you're not willing to live with this little blend area, and then you're talking about, I mean, you really, in this case, you're talking about a lot of money for paint, because we're out of the red paint now, and you're talking about hundreds of dollars of labor. So I don't know that this is really the best of all worlds here. And we'll see if Vlad's happy with it. I think he will be. And by the way, one way you can prevent some of this from happening, I guess on any motorcycle, is if you put a soft rubber washer behind the bolt instead of a real washer that crunches down like that. But again, we'll see. Now, that's as far as I dare sand it before buffing it. I'm trying to get the light to candle it. What happens, because we left that rubber part on, I've got to get the last little bit right up against the rubber by hand. And then what I'll do is the same thing I did with the black part. I'll run the buffer over the whole part with the ultra fine compound. And we'll see if the other part is going to... with 2 out of 3 here, I'm feeling pretty good. But it just takes time. None of this stuff happens overnight, that's for sure. Okay, 2 parts down, 1 part to go. Now this part, I had a touch up here of a very small area, And the area in the back was a little bit larger, but it's basically going to be a repeat of the same exact steps we did on the first two parts. And then we'll have to get Vlad to come over and see if he's happy with the job. Because these are the kind of things you can never decide until the job is actually done. And again, like I say, this the only reason, and the reason we post all this stuff up on video is because, number one, to buy these parts from BIMOTA, forget about that. That's thousands. To repaint the whole part and get the decals and do the all, you're talking about many hundreds of dollars worth of work. So these touch-ups, even if they're not 1,000% perfect, well, you got to balance it against what it would cost to buy the new parts from BIMOTA. And so when I finish this one, we'll look over the whole operation, but then the final vote comes from Vlad. Well, Vlad, your stuff's ready for pickup. And for your final evaluation, any repair, of course, it's always in the eye of the customer. But anyway, we did, and I hope you can see that before we actually come over here. It's the repaired area on this part. That repair over there. And the big one with all the body work and the carbon fiber work on that part. So this doesn't look like that was that big of a job. Believe me, this was a lot of hours. Boy, in every one of our restoration jobs, every one of our repair jobs, I would say this was in a class with the one we did for Dale, doing that RZ tank. This was really a lot more difficult than I thought it would be. And it's good to have it behind us. And of course, we're just waiting for the time we can ship Ray his parts. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed sharing this little adventure with us, and enjoy your BIMOTA. And for me, it's time to go get the baby, as it always is. It always seems like it is. Anyway, thanks for watching.